Labor Day in South Florida. That's where the Phillies fans are this afternoon because the Phils are getting set for a 3-game series against the Fish, trying to right their ship after a troublesome homestand where they did not hit the baseball consistently. They got good starting pitching, but just couldn't find their offense. Game 1 between the Phils and the Miami Marlins. All right, so this is the homestand for the Phils. They were outscored 25-11, out-homered 7-4. They hit just $154. Their runners in scoring position batting average was right around the same. They struck out 58 times in those 6 games. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy along with Matt Stairs. We'll hear from Greg Murphy in just a little bit. All right, so the Phillies are struggling, but they're facing a Marlins team that is really struggling. And it even goes back past Giancarlo Stanton's injury in the middle of August. This is a team that was battling for a wild card spot and is falling and falling fast.
Well, they're falling quick, and they're losing to teams that are not starting the number 1 through 5. They're guys that are filling in, guys from the minor leagues. And when you struggle, it all starts with the guys at the top of the lineup. As you can see right here, 1-8 in the last 9 games. Outscored 42-24, but really their starting pitching has been pretty good, but their bullpen has been struggling really bad of late.
Bullpen's been struggling. You saw they were a game and a half out of the wild card when that stretch began, and now they find themselves 4.5 games back. This is part of the reason why. The injuries, yes, Marcell Ozuna is injured. We said Giancarlo Stanton's injured, but these guys are really struggling offensively.
Well, they are. Indeed, Gordon, 2 for his last 26. He's actually 0 for his last 16. These guys here are not doing the quality at bats. They're getting up there, having poor at bats. But one guy who is swinging the bat really well the whole year, Christian Yelich. This guy here, to me, is the best pure hitter on this team, even with the healthy Stanton. He's a guy that just knows how to hit the ball to left field. He's showing that opposite field power here in New York. His first 2 home runs come off fastballs, hits the ball to left field. Third at bat coming up, hits a breaking ball off a left-hander. He just has great technique, big, tall, strong kid, knows how to hit the ball to left field, knows how to drive the ball to right field as well. He uses all parts of the field. That's why he's a very good hitter. And you can see the numbers right here over the last 7 games, 8 for 26. 9 RBIs. Hey, still a couple of stolen bases as well. But really, all in all, he is the best pure hitter the Marlins have in that lineup.
And so versatile in the outfield. He's a Gold Glover and now is playing center field with the injury to Marcell Ozuna. So the Phils are hoping to capitalize on a struggling Marlins team. They will send Jared Eichhoff to the mound. He'll make his 28th start. Jake Esch makes his 2nd major league start for the Marlins. When we return, we'll go to the CSN studios. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Toyota, the annual clearance sale is going on now. Toyota, let's go places. By Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. staffs. Mickey Morandini brought out the lineup card for the Phillies, and Lorenzo Bundy brought the lineup card out for the Miami Marlins. Pete Mackanin hoping that his lineup for today, well, can produce a little more offense than what we've seen over the last week or so. Actually, even beyond that. And he's also hoping that Jared Eichhoff can continue what has been a pretty good stretch for the starting pitchers over the last handful of games. Let's take a look at Pete's lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. So it's the same up top with Hernandez, Herrera, and Franco. Ryan Howard, though, gets another start. He's over at first base. And then the bottom of the order is pretty much the same as what we've seen the last couple days for the Phils. And they will face right-hander Jake Esch, former 11th round pick out of Georgia Tech, making his second start. He went 4 to third his last time out. Matt, his numbers in the minor leagues will not blow anybody away. It's an ERA for his career of over 4 in the minor leagues, but they're trying to piece the rotation together here in the month of September, a lot like the Phillies in some ways.
Well, they are. You know, it's another tryout because they've had their 2, 3, 4 pitchers go down, so they called him up from the minor leagues. It's not real overpowering. See the scouting report. He will live right around 90, 91. They say he can hit 95, 96 at times, but he is a 4-pitch pitcher. You mentioned his numbers in the minor leagues: 12 and 10 with a 4.31 ERA. Last outing, 4 in the third. Gave up 7 hits and 3 walks.
So he will face Cesar Hernandez, Odubel Herrera, and Michael Franco. This has not been a good run for Don Mattingly's team. In fact, they were in the hunt for the wild card, still are, but find themselves falling backward the wrong way. They've been besieged with injuries like a lot of teams around baseball. Time now for our Nissan keys to this afternoon's ball game.
Well, it's going to be our pitching. Eichhoff must first pitch strikes. Get ahead, makes that curveball and slider even better. And for the Phillies hitters, less is more. What I mean by that is take your body out of it, use your hands, work the count, and you'd be surprised how that ball will jump off the barrel of your bat.
Well, you figure something's got to give because the Phillies were swept out of the homestand in Philadelphia. First pitch of the day is taken down low, so we're underway, and the count is 1 ball and no strikes. Cesar hitting .283 with 6 homers and 35 runs batted in. He was 1 for 19 on the homestand. That was kind of surprising.
And that one hit happened to be a home run. But he actually had very good at bats. Just didn't get any hits.
Outside 3-0. The Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is David Neer. Phillies hit a home run at today's ball game. Then David will win $200. McDonald's mix and match any 2 for just $2.50. A McDonald's McPick 2 menu. Three balls, 1 strike to Hernandez. 3-2. Cesar is not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. We have seen that rather consistently lately. Ball 4. So he is aboard to start this ball game. That's a good sign.
When do you think? Was it when he was benched in Minnesota and then all of a sudden he started playing? But do you think that's when he realized he had to start working the count more?
I think, well, no, I think that happened when he got in the leadoff spot. I think the whole Minnesota thing, he had no idea why he wasn't playing.
0.
In fact, he said something to Andres Blanco about it, and Blanco was the one who pointed out why he wasn't playing. And then there was an illness to Tommy Joseph that put Blanco in at first and had Hernandez back in at second, and he hasn't looked back since.
Right. But I would think someone had to, a little birdie had to say in his ear, listen, you're in the leadoff spot, you need to take pitches. Like, he never even thought about swinging that 3-1 pitch, where he's just changed his approach, and I think it's really helped him out a lot.
Odubel fouls it away. It's 0-1. Yeah, I think that's happened, Matt, over the last couple weeks. I don't think that's something that has happened for a long period of time. I think he's been more patient since he's been the leadoff hitter, but taking, let's say, a 3-1 and not worried about it going 3-2.
Yeah, and not worrying about it going 3-2, but I still don't want him to lose being aggressive in a 3-1 count where he can hit doubles. You know where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Like 3-1, now all of a sudden you get 3-2, and now you kind of battle a little bit. you kind of back off and you kind of protect a little bit on a 3-2 sliders or a pitch. So I love the fact that he's taking a lot of pitches, but I still want to see him be a little aggressive. 2-1, 3-1.
No balls and 1 strike to Herrera. A little cat and mouse going on between Esch and Cesar Hernandez over at first. Foul tip, and it's 0-2. Odubel is 0 for his last 11 and 4 for 20 on the homestand. He has watched his average go from 319 down to where it sits at this moment at 277.
One thing about Jake Esch is that he throws basically 2 pitches. He is a 4-pitch pitcher, but he loves his fastball, 65%. He'll throw a slider close to 17% of the time as well. Those are the 2 pitches that he got in trouble with last game. Never gave up a hit off his curve or his changeup.
That ball's hit sharply to short, and it's going to be a double play. 6-3 double play, 2 outs. And that'll bring Maikel Franco to the plate.
You know, I know it's a double play, but it's actually a good swing. Unfortunately, hits it right up the middle, right to the shortstop, but at least he worked the middle of the field. He didn't hit a weak fly ball, and he had good balance.
Well, and you talked about him jumping, starting low, jumping high. It didn't look like he jumped high on that.
It didn't.
Franco pops that one up just in front of us. And out of play, 1 ball, 1 strike. Maikel, 250 hitter, 22 home runs, 72 runs batted in, or 73 runs batted in. Inside. And it's even now 2-2.
I'm hoping this big field, and it is huge, left field 344, right field 335, and about 610 feet out here. But it'll make these guys use the big part of the field. Think the middle of the field. That's where Stanton usually thinks, right there.
Yeah, the Phillies will not see Stanton. Nobody will see him for the rest of the year because of the groin injury. There he is. As talented as he is, he has really been plagued with injuries. A liner out toward left field. Dietrich comes running in. And he sort of on ice skates makes that catch. No runs, no hits, nobody left. On to the bottom of the first. Half of the first, so Jared Eickhoff out warming up on the mound. Let's take a look at the Marlins lineup for today. Brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Well, since the last time we saw the Marlins, they have a much different lineup, and it begins with the leadoff hitter, D. Gordon, who was not around the last time the Phillies faced the Marlins. Xavier Scruggs starts at first base. He'll bat 7th. Rojas starts at shortstop, batting 8th for the struggling Danny Echeverria. And they will face Jared Eickhoff, who is 9-13 with an ERA of 3.90.
We'll see the numbers. He's been pretty good the whole year. He's been really solid. Last outing did walk 3 hitters, but all in all, he's been very good. And I just love the fact that he is aggressive with his fastball. Knows he wants to get ahead with the fastball because it makes that curveball, like I said, a lot better.
D. Gordon swings at the first pitch. That's not a surprise. His numbers against the Phillies for his career are pretty good. In fact, last year, his last 3 games, he was 7 for 13 against the Phils. Overall hitting .254. He shows bunt. 1 ball, 1 strike. Franco creeping in. 0 for 7 in the series against the Indians. 0 for his last 16, 2 for his last 26. And he rips that one to the right center field, and he is going to fly around the bases. This is 3 at least. It's the 4th triple of the year for D. Gordon, and he goes in standing.
You know, I was just thinking after that first swing, and if I recall last year, he hit some balls the exact same way he just did to right center for triples. It's supposed to be a fastball inside, out over the plate. I don't care if you're 2 for your last 26 or 0 for your last 16. Big leaguers hit mistakes. Hence, he's got the high socks as well.
Boy, he got to third easily. So now Ichiro hitting .294 on the year, 4 for 12 against the Indians. And he takes low, 1 ball and no strikes. He's playing just about every day since the injury to Stanton, and of course the injury to Marcell Ozuna, who we probably will not see at all in this series. And Don Mattingly's thankful that he has Ichiro at this point. Two balls and no strikes. He could basically be a platoon with Jeff Francoeur. Ichiro with 4,295 hits between Japan and the big leagues. And he lines one into center field for a base hit. Gordon scores easily. It's an RBI for Ichiro, and it's 1-0 Marlins on top. Well, that didn't take long.
Nope. Another fastball up in the zone.
That is career hit number 3,018 for Ichiro in the big leagues. And now Martin Prado, who for his career has always hit the Phillies well. This year, in particular, hitting .333 against them. He's 5th in the National League in hitting. He and Odubel Herrera among the leaders in singles in baseball.
LeMahieu on that list surprises me. The size he is, playing at Coors Field.
And he does have his fair share of extra base hits, too.
I guess that's the reason why he's leading the league by, what, 6 points or 7 points?
Took over that lead against Daniel Murphy when the Phillies and the Nationals faced off last week. On the inside corner, 0-2. Daniel Murphy was the leader in the clubhouse for 121 games. the National League leader in hitting. So have to keep an eye on Ichiro. He has stolen 10 bags this season. Prado does not bite.
Parada's one of those guys. He's so hard to defend for an outfielder because you can throw a fastball inside and he steps in the bucket. He can drive it to right field. He'll pull mistakes. The only guy in the outfield that has to play opposite field would be the center fielder. Everyone else, the corners, have to play straight up versus him.
Yeah, Odubel's a few steps over toward right center. And another breaking ball outside, 2-2. Pretty close pitch. There you see the outfield alignment.
I mean, the infielders are straight up. You know, playing in a little bit for double play depth, but that's signs of a good hitter.
That ball is way in front of the plate. Ichiro is going to go to second, and then the throw goes into center field. Well, this is not the cleanest of starts for the Phillies.
No, but it was a great fake by Cesar Hernandez at second base
to keep him there. You're right.
He does a nice job of bouncing on this ball quick on a ball in the dirt, but he rushes his throw. What Cesar though, pretending he catches that ball,
and then goes after him too with the tag, as if Ichiro slid up past the bag. 3-2 to Prado, and a strike 3 call. He decided to go with a fastball. Good pitch. 1 out, and Yelich is coming up.
You said it, good location, bottom of the zone, good movement, good two-seamer.
Marty Foster's behind home plate. Lance Barrett's at first. Pat Hoberg, who seems to have done at least a Phillies series every 2 weeks. He's at second base, and Paul Nart, the crew chief, at third. Yelich takes upstairs. 1 ball, no strikes. Yelich hitting .306. That was a good slider. .306 of the year with 18 home runs, 85 runs batted in. .340 against the Phils. Change up outside, and 2 balls and 1 strike. Out to left center field. Altair says he has it, so does Herrera, and Herrera makes the catch. Well, both were there. And Ichiro goes back to second base. Boy, that deke by Cesar Hernandez is even bigger now, because that would have scored Ichiro from third.
You can see Odubel's yelling. Many times in the outfield, you'd be yelling, I got it at the exact same time. And it's hard to hear your teammate in the outfield.
Here's JT Realmuto. He's hit in 5 consecutive games. And he's also hit in 5 straight against the Phils. 10 for his last 25. Guys been bouncing all over their lineup. Lead off second. Today he's batting fifth. And a line drive base hit it to left center field. Ichiro will coast home. RBI single for Real Muto. 2-0 Marlins on top. Marlins scored 2 runs here in the first inning.
This curveball just didn't have the big break that it usually does, or the sharpness. Just kind of spins up down the middle, and you mentioned it. Realmuto's been swinging the bat very well.
And now Derek Dietrich playing left field. Where it goes, pitch is taken for a strike. The throw to second base is in time to get Real Muto. Trying to steal his 12th bag of the season. The Marlins ask for the Phils to hold as they review it. Cameron Rupp threw a strike. Phillies trail at 2-0. And in just a second, we're going to go to the top of the second inning. It looked like he was out. Don Mattingly agrees now. So we'll go to break and be back. The Phils down by 2, looking for some offense when we return. Marlins will be heading to Citizens Bank Park to take on the Phils. And a reminder that the 17th is the Winter Aviator hat for fans 15 and older. Compliments of hers. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. As we begin the top of the second, Phillies trail at 2-0. Ryan Howard will lead it off. Howard hitting a .196 with 20 home runs. He has never homered in this ballpark. Not many ballparks has he gone void of home runs. 1 ball and 1 strike. One and 2. Today's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box. Two balls and 2 strikes to Howard. And Howard strikes out. First strikeout for Esch. And one away. Esch is basically in the rotation for the Marlins because Conley is hurt and Chen is hurt. That's just a fastball, man.
A fastball where it ties you up.
Juan Nieves, the pitching coach, is the gentleman to the left, wearing a jacket for some reason. Maybe he just wanted the pockets because it's warm in here. The roof is closed. It's been open just 7 times this year. Last time was the 11th of May. Cameron takes at the knees. 1 ball, 1 strike. Pulled toward third, backhanded by Prado. And there are 2 outs for the Phillies. And Aaron Altair is coming up. Esch graduated from the same high school as Joe Mauer did in Minnesota. In fact, it's also the same high school that produced Chris Wenke, the former Heisman Trophy winner from Florida State. He went on to pitch at Georgia Tech. He went there as a pitcher and a shortstop and played both throughout his college career. Ground ball toward the hole, backhanded and dropped by Rojas, and Altair is safe at first.
Should be a hit.
I think Rojas would have had a tough time getting him even if he had fielded it because it's such a long throw and Altair runs well.
Yeah, I mean, that's, he did clank it, but he went far to his right. You mentioned Altair runs very well.
Runner at first. Here's Freddie Galvis. I think it's impressive that a guy goes to such a good school, Division I school in the ACC, and goes as both a pitcher and a fielder. So it's easy to see why the scouting report is he can field his position. No balls and 2 strikes.
So does that mean when he stands in the batter's box he's going to be a hitter or a batter?
His numbers are decent from the minor leagues. I think he'll be a hitter. Swing and a miss. Well, right now he's a pitcher. He has struck out 2 in this ball game. No runs, 1 hit, an infield hit for Aaron Altair. We'll move to the bottom of the second. Phillies down 2-0 to the Marlins. blockbuster deal that sent Sam Bradford to Minnesota went down. And hear from the head coach on the status of Wentz as they get ready for the season opener versus the Browns. Watch Philly Sports Talk tonight at 5 right here on CSN. Well, you've heard the reports. Carson Wentz is scheduled to start, if healthy, and they think he is scheduled to start against the Cleveland Browns in the opener. I want to talk about elevating somebody's status quickly. Home second, 2-0. Marlins on top. Dietrich was up when Real Muto was thrown out trying to steal. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Since the 1st of August, the Marlins are 11-21. I mean, they were riding high and closing quickly on the wild card on one of the spots. 2 balls and 1 strike. But Don Mattingly has watched things sort of unravel. Some of it is under their control. A lot of it is not because of the injuries. I don't know how you felt, Matt, but I thought they were in line, at least in the East. They were better than the Mets. Off speed pitch, 2-2.
Offensively, yes.
That's right. Yeah, offensively,
yes.
Fly ball, left center field. That should slice back toward Altair, and Odubel will come over and make the catch. What a way. Well, earlier today, Giancarlo Stanton was out running and playing catch and taking some fly balls. That groin, they say, will keep him out of the lineup for the rest of the year, although he looks like he's moving pretty good there.
Yeah, minus that one.
Yeah, minus that one. He is a big dude, but Murph, his presence in this lineup, this void is very difficult for the Marlins to overcome.
It has been very noticeable from even from our seats in Philadelphia. As you watched on August 13th, that is when Giancarlo Stanton went down, and it is such a big hole in the middle of that lineup, and honestly in the middle of that clubhouse as well. He certainly is a leader, and you can see the effects on the Marlins as you look at their numbers before the injury and after the injury. Batting .271 as a team, slugging at .408, averaging about a home run a game and 4.3 runs per game. And that's the biggie. You take a look after the injury, averaging just 3.2 runs per game. They were 8.5 games back in the East at that point when he got hurt. They are now 11 games back. More importantly, guys, they were a half a game out of the wild card at that point. They are now 4 games out of the wild card. Certainly, they have time to make that up. But with that big hole in the lineup, it's going to certainly be a little bit more difficult for them. They're very hopeful that they can get him back maybe near the end of the season, maybe the last 2 weeks of the season. But at this point, they're just not sure.
Scruggs is hit by a pitch, so he will take his base. So a base runner for the Marlins with 1 out. Yeah, when the injury occurred, about a week after the injury occurred, they said he was done for the year. And now there seems to be a little bit more optimism that he could be back, as Murph said, at some point. But even the article yesterday said that it was doubtful that he would come back unless they made the postseason, unless there was a chance for them to make the postseason. But you couple that injury with, you know, the injury to Bohr over at first base.
Left-handed hitter.
Yeah, that's a left-handed power hitter in their lineup. Marcell Ozuna has been out since last week with the wrist injury, but they expect him to be back, not this series, but at some point in the next few days. But again, it is a wrist injury.
Well, I always look at, all right, look at the guys. Bohr's out, and so is Stanton's out. Stanton would hit in the 4-hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually the 4-hole hitter. Bohr's the number 5 guy.
Yeah, Yelich would bat third.
Now everybody's moved up. You know, Dietrich, who's a guy who usually hits 8th in the order, moves up 3 spots, 2 spots. It's just a matter of when you lose your middle guys, your depth of your lineup shrinks so bad. Now guys are hitting out of positions.
Swing and a miss. 0-2 to Rojas.
I mean, as good as Yelich is, I mean, he's not a 4-hole hitter. He's number 3 guy. He's the guy that gets on and sets the table for the Stantons.
And a liner down the right field line. That's going to be trouble. Drops in for a hit. Scruggs goes to third. The throw goes to second softly. And Rojas is able to get into second base with a double. Boy, I have to be honest with you. I thought that Rojas was making a huge mistake going to second base on Peter Borges' arm. But Peter didn't really get a whole lot on that throw. And Rojas was able to get to second base.
Well, the reason why is that as an outfielder, whenever you go to your left, or if you're left, you're going to your right, especially in this situation, Peter's going to his left, you want to get the ball and turn and spin. The way he fielded it, there's nothing behind the throw. You're throwing it flat-footed. So it's the, you catch off balance, you turn and throw, do the little 360, get something on it.
Well, now Ash showing bunt, takes a strike. 0 for 2 in the big leagues. Ash does have a home run in the minor leagues. He has 16 hits in the minor leagues, a .286 batter.
He has no idea what's going on. He was in there, and Eichhoff came set. Here comes Lenny Harris. And he was looking down the left to Lenny Harris to see what was going on.
You think Lenny just told him what the play was?
Oh, yeah. All time, he told him what was going on.
Fouls it away. It's 0-2. A little bit of confidence right there to have him swing.
Second and third.
Yeah, there's really nothing.
Unless you're doing a safety squeeze. Which we've seen if you get it down and the execution's perfect. You want to talk about a pinch hitter? That man can pinch hit.
Who, Lenny?
All time.
He is the all-time leader in pinch hits. Should get your photo with him. Swing and a miss. So 2 outs. Pitcher or not, that is a big out for Eichhoff. If your employees are on the road as much as the Phillies are, protect them with Independence Blue Cross. They're part of a national system of Blue Cross and Blue Shield plans that cover more than 100 million members across the country. Live fearless. Learn more at ibx.com/biz. Well, here's D. Gordon. Gordon tripled and then scored his first time up. One of 4 hits for the Marlins. One ball, 1 strike to Gordon. One and 2. Eichhoff, in the month of August, did you see his pitches today? 43% fastball, 34% curveball. His numbers in the month of August, he finished 3-1. He had a high earned run average. Pitched in 5 games in August. So far 3-3 in the second half. This is his 10th start since the All-Star break. Some cat just tried to make a diving catch, and he missed the ball, and man did he land hard.
Did the chair catch him?
The chair partially caught him, yeah. Fans liked it, though. See Eichhoff July and August numbers. ERA was higher, but his win-loss record was better. Upstairs, 2-2. Change up, swung on and missed. And Gordon playing keep away with Cameron Rupp is retired on the 2-3 putout after the strikeout. So 2 strikeouts in the inning for Jared Eichhoff, 3 overall. We've played 2. Phil's down 2. Go to the fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Matt, here we go. What Marlins pitcher recorded a complete game shutout in Game 6 of the 2003 World Series? Game 6. He did it on 3 days rest, by the way. The answer will be revealed in just a little bit. One of 2 world championships for the Miami Marlins in a short period of time. Peter Borges will kick off the 3rd for the Phillies. Bouncer to short. Rojas has it. Flew it over to first. Just a couple pitches, and there's one away. Eichhoff, a 167 hitter this year. Swing and a miss, 1-2. And Jarrett strikes out a breaking ball. Yeah, that is the third strikeout for Esch. The most popular way to follow the Phillies is with MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, game day, scores, StatCast, live radio broadcasts, and more. Get MLB.com at bat on your favorite devices now. If you had that app, you would know that all around baseball, we've got day games on this Labor Day. Hope everybody's enjoying their Labor Day. I know back home there was the threat of the storm all weekend. Probably caused some folks to change their plans, but it turned out to be a rather nice weekend in Philadelphia. 2-0 pitch to Cesar. 2-1. Well, second straight time that he's run the count 3-1.
Is he taken?
I think this time he's going to swing if he gets a fastball. He does swing and he hits it out toward left. Dietrich lumbers back and makes the one-handed catch. Phillies go down in order in their half of the third inning. Only one hit so far through 3 innings. On to the bottom of the third. Ichiro will lead it off when we come back. Is brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. By McDonald's. Mix and match any 2 for just $2.50 on McDonald's McPick 2 menu. And by your local Ford stores. Well, the game might be over early enough to head down to South Beach. Taking some of the sights. Phillies fans down here to watch their ball club. Watch them fall behind 2-0 as we move to the bottom of the third. Ichiro Suzuki, who singled his first time up, will lead it off. And he pops it up. Freddie Galvis comes running in. Franco is there too. And it's Galvis who puts it away. Pretty good chance that Ichiro will have company in the 3,000 hit club next year. Adrian Beltre is on pace to reach 3,000 hits without any injury by next year. There's Martin Prado, and he takes a strike.
And then after that, it could be a while.
It could be a while. There are names, you know, there are guys that potentially will get it, will shatter it. Miguel Cabrera being one of them. Beltre has 2,000 2,900 and change as far as hits go this year. Pujols is there. Carlos Beltran, as that ball is hit back toward the middle by Prado. Carlos Beltran has a chance. I just don't think he's going to play long enough. I don't know what you think, Matt. I just don't think he's got enough left to play long enough.
Well, if he's playing for an American League team and get a chance to DH,
maybe.
Maybe.
Yelich fouls it back, and it's 0-1. Beltre currently has 2,912 base hits. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Albert Pujols 2,803. Beltran just a hair under 2,600. I think Cabrera's got a chance to do it as long as he stays healthy and zip right on by 3,000. What about Pujols? Do you think Pujols will be able to stay around and do it, right? He's sort of found the fountain of youth a little bit this year.
I would think so. Again, DHing.
Remains 1 ball and 2 strikes. Actually, Pujols has a chance to do it next year if he reaches his averages. He might be a little. It might take 2 years. He averages a little more than 150 hits per season, so he'd have to maybe about 160 hits a season. So he'd have to pick up the pace a little bit this last month. Even though he's having a solid year, 268 with 29 homers and 108 RBIs.
It's 11 straight years of 100 RBIs. 10 or 11 years.
Last year he fell just short. He had 95. But
in his career.
In his career, yes.
Sorry.
Up and away, 2-2. There's Tony Perez, Hall of Famer. Yelich pops it up on the left side, and again it's Galvis, this time on the outfield grass. And there are 2 outs.
How about my first big league game in Cincinnati? My wife Lisa and I are outside. We have no idea where to go get taxis to go back to the hotel. Mr. Perez comes over and he goes, "Young fella, I'll take you home." My wife and I jumped in the back seat and he drove us home.
That's pretty cool. 7-time All-Star. He finished with 1,652 RBIs. 7 years of 100 RBIs or more. Wow. Galvis is busy again. Michael Franco saying, "Let me take one of these." But shortstop is the captain of the infield, and he's able to reel it in. Marlins leave 1. We'll leave for the 4th. When it comes to shredding your most confidential documents, hand the game ball over to Fellows, the most trusted name in the game to get the job done. Delivered for free by who? But W.B. Mason. Top half of the fourth. Phillies trail at 2-0. And Odubel Herrera will lead it off. Odubel 0 for his last 12 now. Hit the ball hard though his last time. Prado is creeping in on the grass at third. And it's 1 ball and no strikes. Outside. Now the Toyota Major League Scoreboard. The Mets and the Reds are playing in Cincinnati. Matt Reynolds has hit a home run for New York. And they lead it 1-0. And there are guys that are playing on teams all over the leagues that you've never heard of before. Ball 4. Odubel walks. Well, he tracked all those pitches pretty well. So he's aboard. Monday, September 12th through Sunday, September 18th is Welcome Back College Week at Citizens Bank Park. A $17 package includes upper level ticket, $12 in concessions credits, plus half-price sodas, hot dogs, and pretzels at any South Philadelphia market stand throughout the ballpark. Order now by going to Phillies.com/college. Second walk issued by Esch as Franco bounces it foul. Let's see if Odubel gets moving here. Real Muto's pretty good throwing guys out. Inside. Odubel stole 19 bags. There he goes. Pitches hit in the air to right field. Ichiro comes sprinting in. One out. Ryan Howard's coming up. Well, Murph, the Phillies have been more aggressive on the base paths, and that's much to the liking of Mickey Morandini.
You're absolutely right, Tom. You know, your instincts were right there. They are trying to get these guys on the base paths and then get them moving. And we've seen a significant increase in stolen bases in the second half of the season. Actually, if you look at the numbers from July 1st, before July 1st and after July 1st, they are remarkably different. It was something that the Phillies and Mickey Morandini, as he came in here as the first base coach, wanted to emphasize in spring training, getting these guys on base and getting them moving. But early in the season, quite frankly, it just wasn't going very well. 32 of 58 before July 1st. But since then, stolen base percentage has gone up to about 82%. 43 of 52 stolen bases in that time. I talked to Mickey about that today, and he said he's not surprised. He has seen the guys grow in confidence, including Cesar Hernandez, who has doubled his output since the beginning of the season. Freddie Galvis as well has stolen more bases in the second half. And of course, Aaron Altair, since he's returned, is 6 for 6 with stolen bases. And he said, you know what, they go over it every day. They go over the timing of the pitcher to first base, the timing of the pitcher to home plate, the arm of the catcher, how effective is he, and they talk about it every day, and he's starting to see the results, and that certainly makes Mickey Morandini a happy man.
Yeah, and I think, and Pete's talked about this, they could probably even do it a little bit more than they do. But the first step is having that success, which they are having. They are keeping Howard way off balance with the slow stuff right now. Quick toss over to first.
Stealing bases is the same as pitching and hitting. Being a batter or being a pitcher, having a confidence, it's the same as being a base runner. Trusting in what you see.
Over to first base, a foul ball. Fortunately, it was foul because Ryan, who saw it was foul, didn't leave the batter's box. First base umpire Lance Barrett made the call. Usually it's the home plate umpire's call until the ball gets to the bag.
So now if he keeps his pattern up, this is a good time to steal because an off-speed pitch is going to come. Now that I say it'll probably be a fastball. Fastball up.
Odubel goes. Pitch is swung on and missed. Throw to second base on one hop, not in time. And Herrera gets a stolen base. So he's in scoring position with 2 outs. As Howard strikes out for the second time today.
He had a great jump, peeks in a little bit, but I like the fact that he goes in hard and holds his hand on that bag.
Well, now Cameron Rupp is going to be the hitter. Outside. Cameron, his first time up, grounded out to third base. Off the hands. Phillies so far have the 1 hit and they haven't scored a run. You know, they have the second most games scoring no more than 1 run this year, behind the Milwaukee Brewers.
Milwaukee Brewers have them by 1.
By 1. I'm actually surprised the Brewers are there only because of the pop that they have in their batting order. Ground ball foul. Phillies have been held to 1 run or fewer 30 times. They're 2-28 over that period of time. That's tied with the Yankees. Again, I'm surprised the Yankees have had so many games where they've scored 1 run or fewer.
This is a hanger. Just clipped the bottom of it.
Swing and a miss. He got him with a breaking ball. Back-to-back strikeouts. No runs, no hits. 1 man left in scoring position. Middle of the 4th, the Phillies trail it 2-0. for today. Toyota, let's go places. Let's go Phils. Bottom of the fourth inning, Phillies trail at 2-0. And the Marlins will send Derek Dietrich, Xavier Scruggs, and Miguel Rojas to the plate. Bob Mattingly was saying today that they're thankful that last year Dietrich began to take fly balls out in left field and played a lot of left field. And that's because D. Gordon came on the scene, so he wasn't going to be the everyday second baseman. In order for him to play, he had to figure out how to play the other positions. Now, he is not a gazelle out in left field, but his bat's in the order, and he does get to most balls.
I've seen a lot of outfielders that weren't the quickest, but their first step was tremendous, or the proper route to the ball was good.
Howard has it. Eichhoff is over as Cameron Rupp leads. And one away. And here is Xavier Scruggs. He swings at the first pitch over toward the Phillies dugout and out of play.
Well, I understand why they're swinging at the first pitch. Eichhoff's 13 out of 15, 11 straight hitters. First pitch strikes.
This curveball doesn't have that real sharp break on it.
No, it doesn't.
But the home plate umpire is calling it.
Bounce it.
And they tried to. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
That's just a matter of not getting on top of that curveball, getting lazy, hand gets underneath it, just comes up and spins instead of getting on top and having that good snap.
Well, that's a good location for that fastball. 2 outs. Lowest opponent batting average on curveballs. Jared Eichhoff has held the opposition to a 148 batting average. There's some nice curveballs on that list. Over to shortstop, Galvis to his right. And Ryan Howard's able to hang on to the bag. 4 in the books now in South Florida. The Phils trail the Marlins 2-0. Marlins scored the 2 runs in the first inning against Eichhoff. Marlins playoff chances. It's still there to pull off some magic. That's the one thing I think we have to hold on to. As badly as we played, we still have to be able to put it behind us, knowing there's a possibility of magic out there, of us getting hot and doing something. There is plenty of time. The problem that, you know, the Marlins have, and some of the others, is that they're only going to be facing the Mets on that list, you know, for the foreseeable future. So it's hard to take care of the teams ahead of you because you don't have those matchups. Mattingly does have the Mets only one more series in 2016.
The only good thing for Miami is that Pittsburgh plays St. Louis now. So you're hoping that one of the teams knock the other team down more.
But you have to get hot also.
But you have to get hot as well. I'd hit him.
Well, Terra's hit by a pitch, so he'll take first. He's been on base both times today. Well, the Marlins by month, obviously July was their best month with 16 wins. August, though, I think August kind of came out of nowhere, Matt. I mean, particularly with how good they were offensively.
The pitching's been good the whole year, except for they've got off to a hiccup in September. But I always thought that this team here was a very impressive hitting team.
Galvis shows bunt, takes inside, 1-0.
The monsoon outside.
It has begun to rain outside, and there's a lot of thunder in the area, which you just heard. Runner goes, pitch is hit in the air down the right field line. Towering shot, hooking foul. I mean, that's a blast. I think somebody made a nice catch down that right field line. Oh, yes, she did. One and two. You heard Freddie yell at himself for missing that pitch. Freddie with 6 home runs in his last 22 games.
You know who started that with players yelling at each other or yelling at yourself?
Who's that?
Manny Ramirez.
He used to yell at himself
all the time.
Into right field. That's well hit. Ichiro just turns and watches it go into the second deck. Freddie Galvis, a 2-run home run, has tied this ball game up. His 16th homer of the year, 56 runs batted in. He crushed that ball.
Well, I hit the ball down the right field line earlier, foul on a high fastball. This time stays back a little longer. And watch this short swing on a curveball. Nice and easy swing, second deck.
Well, it makes a winner out of David Nair, who's won $200 thanks to Freddie Galvis and the McDonald's home run jackpot. Well, Freddie wants to reach 20 home runs, and he is another step closer to it. 16 home runs. Borges lines one to the gap in left center field. That's going to go to the scoreboard. And Borges on his way to second. He's already around the second base bag, heading to third, and he will get there. A traditional feet first slide, and Peter Borges with his 7th triple of the season. And still nobody out.
Well, the first pitch to Borges was a very good breaking ball. That one there, not so much. Too much to the plate. A little slider out over the plate. Nice job hitting the ball to left center. Wanted guy by Yelich. Easy triple.
So now the infield is in for Eichhoff with a runner at third. Off the glove of Real Muto. Over toward third. Prado's got it. Borges dancing off the third base bag. And now to the top of the order for Cesar Hernandez. Austin Bryce is warming in the bullpen. Marlins do have a couple extra hurlers in the pen. Cesar is 0 for 1. Ground ball foul. Back toward the middle again, and right between the legs of Rojas into center field. A run scores, and the Phillies take the lead. It's a 3-2 ball game. He just thought that ball was going to come up, and it never came up. And that will be his 4th error of the year.
Peter Borges was going on contact. Even if Rojas comes up with that ball, he wouldn't have had Borges at home.
Yeah, so you can give it RBI to Cesar Hernandez. It's 3-2. The Phils have scored 3 runs in the inning. Juan Nieves out to talk to his young right-hander. So now Odubel Herrera is up with a runner at first base. 1 man down. The Phils have scored 3 runs in the inning. Odubel walked his last time up. By the way, we were so enamored with D. Gordon going around the bases for his triple. It took him 11 seconds and change to get from home plate all the way to third. It took Peter Borges less than 11 seconds to get to third. I'm not saying that Peter's faster, but
numbers don't lie, Tom.
He was quicker to third base. Cesar is running on that, and he is out, trying to steal second base. Boy, I thought he got a good jump. Real Muto had a pretty good path to throw.
Didn't have a real aggressive lead, didn't have a great jump.
Yes, I thought he did have a good jump, but you're right, he didn't.
Yeah, he did. One thing I noticed about Cesar when he slides head first, he slows down before he dives.
Just to kind of give himself
a
path.
Right.
One ball, one strike to Odubel Herrera.
And I don't know if that's because they slide on the outside of the bag. They don't want to slide past it. Ricky Henderson used to slide straight at the bag as hard as he could, and he would stay on him with his knees or his shins. So he never lost any time with a head first slide.
Yeah, or even lock his feet.
Yeah.
Cesar right now has the go-ahead RBI. On the error by Rojas, it's 3-2. Phillies on top. And Odubel off balance, swing and a miss. And he is struck out. Phillies settle for the 3. Freddie Galvis' 2-run home run tied this ball game up. And then the Phils took the lead. Galvis with this home run is 16th of the year. And he knew it was gone just like everybody else as soon as it left the bat. One to the bottom of the 5th. 3-2 Phils. It all begins Monday, September 12th. It's a 7:05 first pitch. All 4 at 7:05. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. Pinch hitter for the Marlins. Is Tomas Tellis. And a breaking ball, and it's 0-2. Asked him down there. I said, is it Tellis? Because, you know, we had the whole Galvis a few years ago. No balls and 2 strikes. He's 0 for 2. Grounds one under the glove of Jared Eichhoff and into center field, a base hit. Well, he is aboard to start the bottom of the 5th inning. So that means Escher's day is done. And D. Gordon is the batter. Got to be aware of D. Gordon, whether he's going to bunt or not. He tripled in the 1st inning and scored a run. And off the glove of Cameron Rupp. It's going to be another pass ball to Cameron. At least I think it will be. He had to reach for it, but still it was a catchable ball. yeah.
Yep, fastball.
So that is the 7th pass ball of the year for Cameron. Gordon shows bunt again. This time the pitch is called low. Out to center field. Odubel Herrera makes the catch. And then quickly gets the throw in on one hop. Just to hold the base runner at second. So Eichhoff gets Gordon. Now he's got Ichiro Suzuki to deal with. Ichiro singled home a run his first time up and also scored a run.
You know, I watched the reaction of the bench, and they're giving Gordon, you know, high fives on the bench. It's not a good at bat. You have a 2-0 count, and you hit a ball to center field, and you don't do your job by advancing the runner over.
Yeah, you need to either bunt there or hit that.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself up. Like Schmitty said on the broadcast yesterday, if you're not swinging the bat real well, you have to help your team out by getting a guy over, getting him in, or man on third base, or whatever it is. Play good defense. But to watch these guys come over and handshake him because he hit the ball hard.
Yeah, that one gets away. Rupp tried to block it.
That might have hit Ichiro. Maybe not.
Well, if it does, it's a dead ball, and then the runner has to go back to second. No. Well, Jared Eichhoff just made his job a little harder, so he's got a pass ball and a wild pitch that he's had to deal with in this inning. Over to second base, backhanded by Cesar. Yeah, there are 2 outs. That ball was hit right on the nose. I was watching Cesar go after it, and I was thinking, get in front of it, because he backhanded it, which, you know, was hit sharply, so he just reacted. But he showed some nice hands on it. And now Martin Prado with 2 outs. Prado's 1 for 2. He has gone down looking. He's also singled. Prado is the best in the National League in hitting with runners in scoring position. He's as clutch as you will find. He's hitting .317 overall, but .377 with runners in scoring position. Check swing, and it's 1-1. That's not the kind of swing that he takes with runners in scoring position. It was kind of like that Howard at bat the other day where he had a check swing and he just hit it slowly back to the pitcher. Center field, Odubel Herrera started in. Now he goes back Dykoff does a nice job of working around a pass ball and a wild pitch to leave a base runner over at third. We have completed 5. The Phils lead it by 1. Seasons of his career. As usual, Freddie is defending his position on the diamond at a top-notch level. The 26-year-old is first among NL shortstops in starts and fielding percentage. But that's just the glove. At the plate, Galvis has reached career best marks in doubles, home runs, extra base hits, RBIs, and steals. In the field and at the plate, he has elevated his game, and it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Well, Freddie certainly has elevated his game. He's also elevated the Phillies game in this afternoon's ball game with a 2-run home run. All part of a 3-run 5th inning. Marlins are making a change out of the mound. They'll bring in the right-hander Austin Bryce, pitching in his 4th game. So 5 innings for Esch, who did not pitch badly at all. Esch wound up striking out 6 in this game. Walked a couple batters, hit 1 batter. And Michael Franco will lead it off.
Austin Bryce, big old right-hander, has a good arm, 93 to 96. Very good slider, tops out at 89. He also has a curveball, 79 to 81.
Drops down a little bit too as he brings it to the plate.
Drops down a little bit, and it's weird to see that ball go on the other side of the plate.
Yeah.
He's just getting around and he's pulling it. Usually when you drop down, you're going to have a little bit of movement in towards Michael, like that one.
Franco hits it in the air to right center field. Playable for Christian Yelich. Well, it's a good thing there's a roof on this place. We would not be playing right now. I mean, it is raining. Here's Howard. He's 0 for 2. Well, you can see the game plan. They're not, I mean, they gave him fastballs, but they gave him elevated fastballs after. But they're starting him off with these slow pitches, breaking ball, changeups. And the pattern has worked. Well, there you go, fastball there, but it was 2-seamer that ran away. 0-2. 40 career home runs, tied with Chipper Jones. As we mentioned earlier, he has not homered here. It's not like the ballpark just opened. He's had at-bats here. And you consider that he homers for his career every 14 or 15 at-bats. You'd think he'd run into one here. Ground ball to first, and Scruggs got it. 3 unassisted, 2 outs. Time now for our Citizens Bank Minor League Report. And an update, the Gulf Coast League Finals. The Phils lost to the Cardinals 3-0, so they trailed the series 1-0. They were 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They left 11 on base. Tomorrow, well, game 2 will be at Bright House. Phillies Gulf Coast League team had a very nice regular season, just as the Clearwater Threshers had a very nice regular season. Here's Cameron Rupp. No balls and 1 strike. The rest of the minor leaguers are winding down today. They're getting ready for the playoffs. Lehigh Valley will take on Scranton, Yankees affiliate. The Reading Titans will take on Trenton, the Yankees affiliate. Swing and a miss, 1-2. Cameron looked fooled on that last pitch. Breaking ball and a strike 3 call. So 1-2-3, 6th inning. Jared Eickhoff with a 1-run lead is ready to go back to work. He'll face Yelich, Real Muto, and Dietrich when we come back. Brought to you by your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer. Visit DelValHondaDealers.com. By Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy rights. Down here in Miami, the Phillies lead at 3-2. Marlins Park, which opened in April of 2012. Christian Yelich will lead it off. Inside, 1 ball, no strikes. Two and 0. This ballpark is about 3 miles or so from downtown, from the edge of downtown Miami. It is the site of the former Orange Bowl here in Little Havana. Up and in, 3 balls and no strikes. It's got a capacity of about 37,000, and they anticipate that it will be filled for the All-Star festivities. Marlins will host the All-Star game next year.
There's going to be some absolute bombs hit here in the home run contest.
Yeah, the deck in right field where Galvis's home run went, and the patio out in left field near the Budweiser sign. That's where there's going to be a lot of action too. Peter Borges had him played perfectly. Had a quick out for Jared Eichhoff here in the 6th.
The scoreboard down the left field line is going to be in jeopardy.
I was thinking about that. I would think they're going to have to put something over it or move it because it is going to be in jeopardy.
Didn't that get broke once before?
I believe Stanton hit it
off of.
That's not the Neris one, right? No, Jamie.
Jamie.
Oh yeah. Breaking ball, and it's 0-1. That's right. This is a look from above where the location of the ballpark is. Supposed to put a soccer stadium around here somewhere too. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ground ball softly left side. Galvis is up with it. And it continues for Freddie Galvis, his smooth fielding. 6-3 on the putout. David Hernandez warming up in the bullpen. I think that's just in case if this inning for some reason gets out of control. Because Eichhoff is seemingly in command and has been. Fastball 0-1 to Derek Dietrich.
No, I would agree. I mean, it's going to be his 87th pitch.
Good spot. 1 ball, 1 strike.
That's a high fastball.
Yeah, I think he was a little surprised.
You're thinking Christ, and then you want to stop your swing, and the dreaded underwater swing.
Line drive caught
nice
by Maikel Franco over at third. And that'll wrap up the bottom of the 6th inning. You got to be aware if you're playing third base. So that's what Maikel Franco was. 6 solid innings from Jared Eichhoff. We'll head to the 7th. Game summary. Jared Eichhoff, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, and 2 earned runs. He allowed the 2 earned runs in the first inning, but since then has been fantastic. Phillies, meanwhile, scored 3 in their half of the 5th. Freddie Galvis' 2-run home run tied this game at 2. Jake Esch wasn't bad. 5 innings, 6 strikeouts for the Marlins. So now as we go to the top of the 7th inning, Aaron Altair will be the batter. There's Jake Thompson, who pitched well again yesterday. And all the talk about him possibly being shut down because he was struggling so much, that's sort of been tabled now by the Phillies, because he has back-to-back solid outings and such command and under control as well. And Murph, that's good to see, because you know, you don't want anybody to end a season like Alec Asher last year, 0-6, never did get his first major league victory a season ago.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of this game, we've heard Matt talk about it, we've heard Ben talk about it, is about confidence, and it looks like Jake Thompson has found his confidence. The homestand, of course, was not a very positive homestand in most aspects, but the coaching staff was very excited about Jake Thompson yesterday and what he was able to do. He pitched 7 innings last night, allowed just the 1 run, and you could see that he's throwing those pitches with command. As you mentioned, I had a conversation with Pete Mackanin about it, and he said at this point there is no plan to shut him down. Take a look at what he did in his first 4 starts, an ERA of 9.78, down to his last 2 starts with an ERA of 1.93. The opponent's batting average about 50 points less as well. The numbers speak for themselves, and quite frankly, at this point, despite the fact having thrown about 163 innings between the minor leagues and the major leagues this year, they want to see Jake Thompson keep on pitching. They want him to ride this high, gain that confidence, and as you said, Tom, finish the season on a high note, because that's only going to help him when he arrives in spring training next season, guys.
Yeah, I think the whole psychological aspect of it, I mean, it's a very good point. But now you want to see that what he's done the last 2 times out, if that is indeed the true Jake Thompson, that's a good thing. Aaron Altair walks, so he's on base 3 times.
Well, what I've noticed over his last 2 starts is he looks like he belongs. He thinks he belongs here, because everything is just calmed down a little bit. Doesn't have that herky-jerky delivery. He's getting the ball. Nice, easy delivery, and the ball's coming out nice. He's throwing well. He has a good sinker. I think he's finally figured out, too, that changeup's a great weapon to have.
Another quick toss over to first. Freddie, his last time up, tied the ball game up at 2.
Didn't miss this curveball. Right in the middle of the plate. Nice easy swing. Nice short swing. Amazing. Less is more, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. See this run of power for Freddie Galvis.
You know, and when you say power, you don't just mean home runs. You mean doubles, gap power as well. That's so important for people to know that when we talk about power, we're not strictly talking about home runs. It's having the ability to hit the ball in the gap for power. But it helps too when you got 16 home runs.
I think it's a surprising 16 too. I don't think anybody would have, you know, given this as the roadmap for Freddie Galvis in a season.
Not when his career high is 7.
Yeah, I mean, it just Juan Nieves out to talk to his right-hander. 2 balls and no strikes. A little surprising. They just not have felt like he was on the same page with Real Muto. Eddie Ramos is warming up in the bullpen. right, so the conversation is done. Ellington warming up in the bullpen for the Marlins. Dropped a breaking ball in on him. 2-1. Another one. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Galvis. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Orioles are here in Florida to take on the Rays. Bottom of the 6th, Baltimore 7, Tampa 3. Chris Davis's 34th home run. Baltimore is currently 3 games back in the East.
That was a 3-0 game, Tampa.
Well, we all know the Orioles, they can blast home runs with the best of them. Ground ball, foul. Baltimore 3 back. The Red Sox 1 back of the Blue Jays. Yankees 5 games over 500, but they're 6.5 games off the pace. Both wild cards, both leagues, they're going to come down to the wire. Freddie dribbles it up the first base line. So wind up being a tough play, and it rolls toward D. Gordon. And the Phillies will have runners on first and second with nobody out. Well, here comes Peter Borges. Let's take a look at the last time he was up and compare his triple to D. Gordon's as far as speed goes.
Now remember, Peter Borges being a right-handed hitter, a little slower getting out of the batter's box, but they hit second base almost the exact same time. Now Gordon slowed down because he didn't slide, but that's getting from home to third very quick.
That Borges came around to score what is the go-ahead run at this point. The official scorer has ruled that an E1 on the pitcher. Peter Borges. Looking over at Juan Samuel.
Oh,
and the ball goes into center field. It went off Altair. And the Phillies will have runners on second and third. That's going to be the second error to the pitcher. D. Gordon really didn't make an effort to try to grab that baseball.
I think it was between his legs.
He went right between his legs. It's fortunate he didn't get hurt on that. So now the infield will play back.
2 errors on the pitcher before a pitch is even thrown.
Yeah. Outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Broken bat looper out towards center field. That'll drop in for a base hit. 1 run is in. Galvis is being held. It's an RBI single for Peter Borges. And the Phils lead it 4-2. And still nobody out.
Well, when you're up there with second and third, you have a job to do, and that's hit the ball to right field. Even though it blew his bat up, he still did a nice job of staying inside that baseball. they're forcing it to right field or up the middle.
And it's also going to force the Marlins to make a pitching change.
You can just see he just makes that effort of hitting that ball up the middle. It's a good at bat.
He's had a couple of good at bats in this game.
What a change, though. You're going probably from a bunt situation.
That's what I was thinking.
To an RBI situation with a man on second and third.
Well, now a pitching change for the Marlins. Phil's lead it by 2 with nobody out. Sunday, October 2nd is Fan Appreciation Day at Citizens Bank Park, the final game of the regular season, and our chance to say thank you to the greatest fans in baseball. Plan for plenty of prizes and surprises. All fans receive a free Phillies Fathead featuring the 2017 Phillies schedule. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. Well, a pitching change and an adjustment to the outfield for the Marlins. Jeff Francoeur will come in to play left field, and Brian Ellington will be the new pitcher. His 22nd game. He's having a good run. And he will face pitch hitter Jimmy Paredes. Infield is in with runners on first and third. There goes Borges. Pitches way outside. Throw is not in time, and Borges has a stolen base. Excellent jump by Peter.
Great jump. Big old leg kick. That's where as a catcher you just might want to eat it. Not bother throwing.
Yeah, I was surprised he threw it. Outside, 2-0.
Ellington's got a very good fastball. He has hit 99 before. Curveball on a hard slider. Curveball's 89 and a slider. Cut fastball's at 88.
Well, there's 98 on that fastball. Pretty healthy rip. Two balls and one strike to Paredes.
Now get on top of this ball and hit it to right field. Second and third.
Threw an off-speed pitch. Cesar Hernandez on deck. That one is ripped past Scruggs into right field. One run is in. Here comes Borges. He'll score. It's a 2-run pinch hit single for Jimmy Paredes. And the Phils lead it 6-2. That ball was smoked off the bat of Paredes.
That's what you talk about, getting on top of a baseball. That's why that ball was smoked. Watch the location where this pitch is. Bam, through that baseball.
A couple nice innings for the Phils offensively. Innings that they haven't had in quite a while. And now Cesar Hernandez with nobody out still. Paredes had started to take off.
What Paredes did is what I used to do when I would get the stolen base sign once in a blue moon. Is you wanted to get such a good jump, you leave so early, you're so anxious to take off.
Yeah, you're excited about it. .96 at the knees, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Cesar today has an RBI. He is 0 for 2 with a walk.
Paredes should be able to steal second base very easily. Ellington's very slow to home. Unless he slide steps, shut it down.
There he goes. Pitch is swung on a miss. Throw to second base on 1 hop. He is out. Ball had a lot on it.
Yeah, he didn't get a very good jump.
No, his jump when he stopped was better. Well, Mickey's base runners have been successful today. They've also had a couple of unsuccessful attempts.
Well, Paredes didn't have a real big lead.
Phillies are taking a look at it. Let's see if Paredes did get his hand in there. The throw was short hopped, and Rojas had to lift a little bit. Looked like he may have gotten it, though. All right, so no challenge.
It was close, but watch when he slides to the bag and he goes over the bag. So the foot blocks. It was close, but he comes off.
Rojas did a good job, though, blocking the bag.
I agree with you, though. Paredes had a tremendous jump when he stopped.
Paredes got a piece of that leg, Rojas's leg. That's why he's limping. Fly ball down the left field line. Francoeur will not get there. Well, the bullpen for the Marlins, an ERA of 5.20 during this stretch. Don Mattingly actually did something I thought interesting and surprising. A.J. Ramos, who was an all-star closer for him, he was on the disabled list, so Fernando Rodney filled in as the closer. Out to center field. Yelich comes on. He won't be able to make the play. Ramos goes on the disabled list. Rodney takes over as the closer. And when Ramos came back, he kept Rodney as the closer. And Rodney has not been as effective as A.J. Ramos, but the thought is that Ramos can give him a couple of innings at a time, whereas Rodney is just a 1-inning pitcher.
so he pitches the 8th inning.
Well, that's what I thought. But the theory is, Mattingly's theory is that Ramos could pitch the 7th and 8th inning if need be.
But why change things at work? That's what's interesting. Storm from the Nationals was having a great year when he was closing last year. They traded for Papelbon. He goes as a setup guy. Now he's on his 3rd team in less than a year. Traded to Toronto. Toronto let go. Went to Seattle.
Oh, 2 now to Odubel Herrera. Well, the Phillies have scored 6 runs in today's game. A far cry to what they were able to accomplish on the 6-game homestand. Figured they were due. And Odubel sprays it into the second deck. Remains 0-2.
Well, something had to give this series.
Something had to give for one of them.
Both teams were combined, what, 1 for the and what, 14? 1 and 14 over the last 15 games, whatever it was.
Try to get him to go fishing. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ramos is going to come on to pitch the 7th inning. Tell you what, you have 2 very deliberate fellows out there right now. Odubel at the plate and Ellington on the mound. And Odubel lines it into left center field, a base hit. Hernandez around second. He'll stop. Now the Phils continue to hit. The only out is the caught stealing by Paredes. Yeah, the Phillies now with runners on first and second with 1 man down.
Another good at bat by Herrera.
Yep.
His first at bat, he hit the double play ball to shortstop, which is fine. The path was a good swing. That one there, line drive to left center, got jammed a little bit, but as a hitter, you'd rather get jammed than out in front.
Well, it prompts a meeting out of the mound with Juan Nieves. JT Realmuto and Ellington in the middle of that conversation. Maikel Franco is due up for the Phillies. Phillies now with 6 runs this afternoon. Tonight at 6 on Quick Slants, host Ray Dittinger and Zach Berman dissect the Sam Bradford trade and talk about Carson Wentz being named the starter for this Sunday's opener against the Browns. All that and more on the Labor Day edition of Quick Slants. Tonight at 6 here on CSN. Franco pops it up. Realmuto, the catcher, is under it. And there are 2 outs. And Ryan Howard is coming up. Howard is 0 for 3. Same pattern, Matt.
Same pattern. Off speed early, fastball's late.
A.J. Us having a conversation with Jared Eickhoff in the dugout. Eickhoff goes 6 innings today. He scatters 6 hits and 2 runs. Probably could have even pitched another inning. He will not be shut down for the end of the year. Retired 11 of the last 12 batters he faced.
17 of 24 first pitch strikes. At 13 in a row at one time. Very good today.
Inside. Howard's now even 2-2. But that was a good fastball too from Ellington.
It wasn't straight either.
Nope.
Had a little run to it.
Got him. 99 on that heater. Third time today Ryan has struck out. Phillies though get 3 more runs in the inning. Jimmy Paredes' 2-run pinch hit single was a big blow. Time to stretch here at Marlins Park. ...2016. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning. The Phillies lead it 6-2 as they have 2 separate innings of 3 runs. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire, the opposition 1-2-3. And Eickhoff was very good today doing that. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Eickhoff did it 3 times today, including the last 2 innings that he pitched. Now he'll give way to Edubray Ramos. Ramos in his 33rd game. He'll pitch the 7th. It seems like Neris will pitch the 8th, and then Jenmar Gomez will pitch the 9th. Although it isn't a safe situation at this point, but that's usually the pattern that Pete has.
Plus Gomez has pitched, what, back-to-back games?
Yeah, that is true. Ramos has looked good. Tommy Joseph is in the ball game at first base as the Phillies make a double switch. Ryan Howard's gotten 4 ABs today, so Tommy will get a chance to bat. Larry Bowa likes it. A 4-run lead. Most coaches would like it, particularly the way they've been able to get the 3 runs in 2 different innings. So here we go, bottom of the 7th inning. Xavier Scruggs will lead it off.
Actually, I stand corrected. Jamar did not pitch yesterday. He pitched Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, so maybe he will get a chance to throw, even if it's not a save situation. So now Scruggs, who is 0 for 1, hit by a pitch his first time up. The Marlins got Scruggs from the St. Louis Cardinals. He, like today's starting pitcher, also was a two-way player in college. He was a pitcher. He pitched in 15 games during his college career at UNLV. Two balls and no strikes. Fly ball down the right field line. That'll slice out of play. 2-1. Marlins are very happy to sign Scruggs from the Cardinals. He was granted free agency. And they picked him up, but he had a good year at AAA. Adeiny Echeverria is out of the on-deck circle. Playable for Peter Borges. And Echeverria will bat for Rojas. I wonder if Rojas was still smarting after that play at second base. Nephew Gondo warming up in the pen. Echeverria, you want to see a guy that's struggling? 0 for his last 17 with 3 walks. Still playing very good defense, but just not hitting.
How about his on-base percentage?
Well, his batting average is 240. What's his on-base percentage?
288.
Core on deck. He'll get a chance to bat. Left center field. Herrera got a late start, but he'll be able to get to it. 2 quick outs. Time now for the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia quiz answer. All right, Matt, here we go. What Marlins pitcher recorded a complete game shutout in Game 6 of the 2003 World Series?
Josh Beckett.
Josh Beckett is correct. He did it on 3 days rest. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack. That magic that Don Mattingly talked about this year's team, that year they had it, and Beckett had the magic touch. Even as young as he was. Up high 2-0 to Francoeur. Jeff is 10 for 27 since being acquired by the Marlins, and 5 for his last 13. Gonna have to ask him why the number 5. He always has a reason for the numbers that he wears. Strike 3 called. Rancourt is down looking, and a 1-2-3 7th inning. We'll move to the 8th. Phillies up by 4, 6-2. By Toyota, the annual clearance sale is going on now. Toyota, let's go places. By Jefferson, call 800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Chevrolet, visit your local Chevy dealer or chevy.com. Top of the 8th inning, the Phillies up 6-2, trying to end this losing streak. They've lost 6 straight. The last couple weeks have not been pretty. Time now for a Hyundai defensive play of the game. This was pretty.
It's about the hot corner. Michael Franco off Derek Dietrich. High fastball, line drive, good timing. Showing his basketball skills. Nice play, tough play. That's your Hyundai defensive play of the game, brought to you by local Hyundai dealers.
Echeverria stays in the ballgame to play shortstop. And Efe Ogando is the new pitcher for the Marlins, as he takes over here in the top of the 8th. Cameron Rupp swings the first pitch and fouls it.
Not in a good spot.
Did that get the home plate umpire?
Not in a good spot.
No. Marty Foster. Real Muto giving him a little bit of time. Out to talk to Ogando. Real Muto just said, "You all right?" Little dribbler in front of the plate, and Ogando picks it up with the bare hand. 1-3 on the putout, and here comes Aaron Altair. Altair's had a good day, considering he's been on base 3 times. He has 1 hit to show for it, but he's also scored a couple runs. This is kind of what Schmitty was talking about yesterday, about just contributing to your team's win. looks like he's getting there, Matt, with his stride that you talked about yesterday. He's not cutting himself off. He's more striding toward the pitcher a little bit. Out towards center field. And it's playable for Yelich. Not a bad swing, though. And there are 2 outs. Phillies fantasy camp is open for men and women 30 years old or older. It's 5 days and 4 nights in beautiful Clearwater, Florida. Package includes hotel accommodations, practice with and instruction from Mickey Morandini, who is the commissioner. That was a title held by Larry Anderson for quite some time. Fantasy game versus the Legends at Bright House Field. You can call 610-520-3400. Look at a miss by Freddie Galvis. Galvis is homered today, and he's also driven in 2 runs. Larry's no longer the commissioner, but he does pop in from time to time. If his busy Clearwater schedule allows it. Now the commission makes the play, and hundreds of people stand up looking for a baseball.
I love it when a fan gets a ball, and what they first do, they look at it. Yeah, it's real.
Yep.
But they've never seen a ball before. Then you have to take a picture with it.
He probably doesn't have one that says Robert Manfred on it.
Good point.
On 1 hop out to shortstop. 1-2-3 inning for Agondo. We have completed 7.5 here in South Florida. Hector Neris adjusts his belt, and here he comes. Phillies up by. Season, so he's preparing to get one of those aviator hats, which will be given out to fans 15 and older on Saturday, September 17th. It's all compliments of hers. Tickets can be purchased for the series against the Marlins by going to Phillies.com. Phillies are on top 6-2. Hector Neris will be the new pitcher. Harris will face D. Gordon as we begin the 8th. Neris. Oh, and 2. Neris leading the league in appearances. Over to the right side. Cesar's up with it. And 1 away. So 1 out. Ichiro's coming up. Let's check in with Greg Murphy. Murph.
All right, it's time for our greater coverage of baseball presented by T-Mobile. Some scary stuff in Seattle yesterday. Angels and Mariners. LA pitcher Matt Shoemaker hit in the head. The line drive off the bat of Kyle Seager. Shoemaker suffered a fractured skull, a small fracture, and a hematoma as well. He stayed last night in Seattle for observation. Now, the good news is he never lost consciousness. That is definitely a positive, but certainly very scary stuff indeed. Our thoughts go out to him. Also, on the West Coast last night, Yasiel Puig in his second start since being recalled from the minor leagues, homered for the very first time since being recalled. He's had 6 at-bats since coming back from the minor leagues. 3 for 6, 3 RBIs, and 3 runs scored, and saying all the right things in the post-game interviews as well. So Yasiel Puig helping the Dodgers as they make their postseason run, guys.
This is a fly ball out toward left. Altair in foul territory makes the catch. And there are 2 outs. Murph, is it an optical illusion that Jimmy Paredes is standing right next to you, or is it?
He's right here, right next to me. I put my arm around him.
Yeah. Tell him nice hit.
Nice hit, Jim.
That Shoemaker story was ugly last night.
Yeah, it was.
He's had surgery today to stop the bleeding on the brain.
I think what Murph said too. We watched the cut-in on the plane, and what Murph was talking about, not losing consciousness. I mean, Seager's face, standing at first base, it definitely affected him. Kyle Seager, that is. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Prado. Dustin McGowan throwing in the pen. Got him. A high fastball hung on to by Rupp, and it's a 1-2-3 8th inning for Hector Neris. Well, the Phillies pitching really on top of their game today. 12 in a row retired by the Phillies pitchers. losing streak. They get a chance to bat here in the top of the 9th inning. They lead it 6-2. And Dustin McGowan, the former Phil, is on to pitch for the Marlins, having a solid year. 3.12 earned run average. Takes over for Ogando. Ogando pitched a 1-2-3 inning. It was the third 1-2-3 inning of the day for the Marlins. And McGowan will face Peter Borges, Tommy Joseph. And then the top of the order for the Phillies. The damage today has come basically from the bottom of the order. I mean, Cesar and Odubel each have a hit. But the bottom of the order, Altair, Galvis, Borges, and Paredes off the bench have provided the spark for the Phils. 6, 7, 8, and 9. There's Altair, who has scored a couple of runs. And Borges, who's also scored a couple. 1 ball and no strikes to Peter. Swing and a miss. 1 ball, 1 strike. Peter Borges 192 the first 55 games, 300 since that time, and he's going to get another base hit here. So Peter has a 3-hit day. That's a good sign for him, because you looked at that graphic, and yes, it has been a good run since his average was under 200, but he has struggled recently. But these 3 hits can change a little of that. Here's Tommy Joseph with nobody out.
He has been doing a lot of work in the cage with Hindu. A lot of extra work right now. 2 work, soft toss.
Trying to find what he had before.
Yeah,
in June.
And Hindu's done a nice job getting him back on that path of work in the middle again.
This could be 2. Echeverria to second for 1, and D. Gordon's able to turn the double play. 6-4-3. There's Genmar. So it is almost Genmar time. McGowan will now face Cesar Hernandez. Cesar's been on base 3 times. A single, an error, and a walk. No balls and 1 strike to him. Tomorrow, these 2 teams will be back at it. More traditional start time. Be on the air at 7 o'clock. Way outside, 2-2.
Cesar's approach of hitting now, he's such a quiet hitter. 0 movement, which means you don't get in long slumps. Yes, he hasn't been hitting the ball great, but he gives you a good at bat every time.
That one's out toward left. Frank Core, a long run, but he's going to get there, and he makes the catch. So the Phillies are retired quietly in their half of the 9th inning, and now we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. It's Genmar time as the Phils try to close this one out as they lead it by 4. the game brought to you by GMC. And Jared Eichhoff, 6 solid innings today. Matty stepped aside that first inning and really pitched well.
Yeah, after the first few hitters, he really did. He calmed down. Honestly, it's about his fastball command today. 13 at one time, first pitch strikes, getting ahead. Didn't have the greatest curveball slider today, but I thought he was very good with his fastball, working it up and down the strike zone. That's why he, right now, looking for his win of the year. Another win.
Yeah, he's looking for his 10th victory. He has a league-leading 13 losses, but his ERA does not match the other guys that have the 13 losses. So it is up to Genmar Gomez to get the last 3 outs. Yeah, the first pitch to Yelich is in there. Genmar, a 3.50 ERA. To the crowd, and it remains 1 ball and 2 strikes. It'll be Yelich and then JT Realmuto and Derek Dietrich. Those are the scheduled hitters for the Marlins, or I should say McGowan. So it'll be a pinch hitter. Over to third, and Maikel Franco stays down on it, and the tag by Tommy Joseph, 1 away. Hopefully Tommy's hand is okay. His glove is off his hand. After the game, Ricky Bo goes inside the numbers and breaks down today's game. Watch Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies post-game live following the final out here on CSN. Realmuto today is 1 for 3 and an RBI single back in the first. Phillies trailed at 2-0 at one point, but then scored 3 in the 5th and 3 in the 7th. Chris Johnson is out on deck, 0-1. Outside, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Realmuto. Realmuto staying alive. Last hit for the Marlins was a single in the 5th inning. A pinch hit single. Since that time, Don Mattingly's watched his team go down quietly. 13 straight hitters retired by Phil's pitching. 2 balls and 2 strikes. That one whipped outside. Boy, it is quiet inside Marlins Park. Not a bad crowd for this Labor Day, but they are quiet. Foul ball, and it remains 2-2. Back toward the box, and it's fielded by Gomez. 2 away. Well, he wins that battle against Real Muto. 14 straight retired by the Phil's pitchers. And Chris Johnson will indeed pinch hit. Johnson, the veteran, 5 for 32 as a pinch hitter this year. Overall, hitting .223 with 5 home runs and 22 runs batted in. Takes a fastball and it's 0-1, but he is really firing that same pitch, same location to all 3 hitters.
And that one there, best pitch of the day at 93.
Yeah. Oh, 2 comes back with an off-speed pitch. Boy, that would have been a nice way to finish up a ball game. That was a good spot. And now the 1-2 pitch coming. Low ball 2. Swing and a miss. He got him, and the Phil's 6-game losing streak is over as the pitching staff retires the last 15 hitters they face, and they win it today 6-2 over the Miami Marlins. Freddie Galvis, yeah, he tied it up with a 2-run home run. Peter Borges, he also scored a couple runs, 3 for 4 with a triple today. He is our Chevrolet player of the game. This was a good win for the Phils, a much needed victory for the Phillies as they begin this road trip with a 6-2 win. And big 5th inning there, Matt. Our WB Mason deliveries of the game.
Yeah, they did very well in the 5th inning. Started off Aaron Altera hit by a pitch, and Freddie Galvis gets a hanging curveball.